Pregame.com.
Welcome back to pregame.tv, another exciting weekend of college basketball action. We're going to cover several games for you. He's Ken Thomson, SportsX Radio. Bryan Leonard, sporting the Cleveland Indians apparel. You've got to change teams. You got to get one that wins. And I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo.
We made the playoffs last year.
One game.
Did we win the championship? No. Did your team win the championship?
We played 5, though.
Well, they had to work 4 other days. My guys were smart enough to lose after one game and get the summer off.
Actually, we played 6 days because we won the play-in game and then played 5 games.
My Mets took the season off, so it didn't matter.
You're the smartest of the bunch. You still got paid the same amount of money.
That's right.
There you go. All right, guys, we're going to break down Miami of Florida at NC State. You talk about two teams that had opposite games. We're taping on Thursday night. Both teams played Wednesday night. Miami of Florida, unfortunately for 2 of the members here on this panel, they laid an egg. Thought it was a spot where, they were playing Virginia. Virginia had that big game coming up on Saturday with, Syracuse. Thought it was a great look-ahead spot. Miami catching a big number. Virginia coming off, blowing out Notre Dame. Everything else sounded great. Sometimes the best laid plans don't work out, but they got drilled. I mean, 65-40. You're talking about embarrassing loss for Miami of Florida. Then you go to the flip side, and you got NC State played their arch rival, North Carolina. Now, I say their arch rival because that's a huge rivalry game, but that's one of those ones that's kind of one-sided rivalry, at least on the basketball side of it, because for North Carolina, there's Duke and only Duke. And I think moving forward, it'll be Duke and maybe Syracuse. I think we've got a rivalry brewing with Duke and Syracuse. But for North Carolina, they're the big brother in the state to NC State, and NC State loves to upset them, and they did everything but win last night. How do they bounce back off of a loss like that?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough situation for them, and they've already won at Miami earlier. And you mentioned the Miami. You forgot to mention the total was set at 105. So you're getting 10.5-point underdog in a game where they're only expecting the winning team to score 60 points or 50 points, 55 points. It was tough, but I watched that game, and Virginia, I'm very impressed with their defense. Although they did get a few calls. Maybe it was just because I had Miami, but I thought they got a few calls at home. But that Miami, and you touched on this in the past, Miami's offense, they really have a tough time scoring.
Yeah, had to replace 5 starters. Shane Larkin's kid, of course, or Barry Larkin's kid, Shane leaving, going early. Ryan Brown, he's not bad. LeCompte, Darius Adams, occasionally these guys step up and give Larinaga some offense. But they need to shorten the game. They've done that. Now, they have a couple of nice road wins early on against North Carolina and recently against Florida State. Both quality teams, and they went on the road and won. Then they find ways to lose to Virginia Tech twice. They lost the NC State game only by a point early. And they've got 2 guys, NC State does, basically T.J. Warren. Gets 27 points a game, and then Ralston Turner. These are their guys that they live and die with. So Miami, on the other hand, they've just they'll take offense from anybody that's looking to give them offense. And it's tough.
They're like a married man like myself. Just take whatever you can get.
I won't even. You gave me an easy one there to bust your stones, but I'll leave it go. You wouldn't, but I'll leave it go. All right, this is my free pick. Let's go ahead and make it official. All right, as we already talked about, this is a revenging road dog. This is one of my favorite scenarios. I like to take the team when they lost at home. That team is going to be focused. They don't want to lose both games of the season series to the same team. I also like to take a team that got embarrassed in their last outing. You can't get any more embarrassed than getting beat by 25 points and only scoring 40. I've always said no team is ever as bad as their worst game, nor are they as good as their best game. Well, we just saw the worst game out of Miami of Florida. I also like to look at a team coming off of a tough loss where I want to fade them. That's NC State. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we had Syracuse having to travel after that gut-wrenching loss to Syracuse at home. that's the same situation we have here, other than the fact that NC State's not traveling. They're still playing at home, and they are going to have to look to bounce back after they blew the game against North Carolina. They led almost the entire regulation of the game. North Carolina makes the run late, sends the game into overtime, and in overtime, NC State had a 6-point lead and blew that as well. I think this falls under the category where this team is fallen and they can't get up. I don't see them being able to bounce back to play this team. Plus, we've got a little bit of an angle here as a possible look ahead. NC State has Pitt up next. Now, I know Pitt's not a powerhouse, but they're the new kid on the block in the ACC. So the first time you play the new kid, I think teams are going to put a little more emphasis on them, especially now they're traveling to Pittsburgh. It'll be the first time they play there. And being the fact that they are coming off the North Carolina game, have the Pitt game up next, and in the middle, you've got a team you've already beaten, and they were embarrassed in their last. Very easy to look past Miami of Florida. I think it's a great sandwich spot situation. I'm going to go ahead and take Miami of Florida plus the points on Saturday. I think this will be a low-scoring, ugly game. I'll grab those points, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see them pull out the upset. We're going to call it Miami of Florida by 3 points on Saturday. All right, that wraps this one up. We're going to be back up next. Ken's going to have a free video for you. Big game, St. Louis travels to Virginia Commonwealth. That's up next, pregame.tv.